Hello! We are back. We are at the dining room table. It is the same night as the earlier video. I am hoping that the cats have settled down now, so we will not hear them going. We're using the same piece of paper because that's what I wrote all my stuff on. I'm going to just have it out here, so folks that just want to see the numbers and jet, there you go. You can look at those at your leisure. But I will talk a little bit about these in specifics. So I think the first thing that we'll actually talk about is over on this side. We decided to create an investment goal, and we're basing that on what our standard budget cost is now. That is a little misleading for me to say, though, because the amount we are looking at is $6,000 in costs per month. That number is actually based off of our costs that we were paying at the beginning of our budget cycle, the beginning of our budget life, when we still had all of the credit card debt, we had the personal loans, we had the car loan and things like that. I want to say that our budget was roughly $5,912 when all was said and done. And so that, we rounded it up to a nice round 6,000. That has been kind of our guiding cost line for pretty much every decision that we've made. Even though, over the last 18 months, 2 years now, because we are in October, we have obviously changed the dynamic of what our costs are on a monthly basis. We still go about life as if we still had those other dollar amounts taking up space. So what that does for us is we inherently are ensuring and creating discretionary money at the end of the pay period, because our budget, our actual costs are less than $6,000. And even then, even when we did have $6,000 as our budget, it was still less than what we were bringing in each month for income. So as that gap widened from incoming money versus outgoing money, we tried to limit how much we increased our costs. So we spoke, a couple of you spoke about lifestyle creep in some of the comments, and that is something that we've actively tried to avoid, because we know if we eat into that gap that we have created by paying off our debt and any increases that have come with just pay increases or things like that, or if we reinstate things into our budget that we had taken out before because we realized we did not need them in there, then we are effectively lessening how much money we have to pursue the goals that we have, including investing at this point. And so that has kept us, honest and true to the budget that we have created. And that's been a motivator to play against the, I think, very real and very understandable impulse to expand your lifestyle a little bit. I fully understand, and I don't fault anyone who has been living a lesser lifestyle than they might like or they might want in order to achieve certain goals, paying off debt, savings, et cetera, and then when that goal is met, wanting to expand just a little bit, wanting to take back a little bit of maybe a feeling of control and maybe even a feeling of more enjoyment out of life if they feel like they have been denied or something like that. We were really, really cognizant of what our spending habits were before, the way that we interacted with money before. And so we kind of cold turkey turned things around in that respect. But we also understood, just like dieting, when you go cold turkey, when you try and just cut everything out, there is an incredibly high chance that you're going to rebound. And not only are you going to do what you were doing before, but you're going to do that plus. And so you're get yourself into a worse position. So we made our budget not austerity, not just beans and rice and cut to the bone. We made sure that there was still a little bit of luxury in there. We made sure that there was still a little bit of the fun and things like that, so that we were less likely to deviate from that goal. And so I think that has been very helpful for us to maintain what we've been doing so far, and thus maintain that space that is allowing us now to do things like investing and all this other stuff. The cats are going to drive me absolutely bonkers. I don't know if you can hear them running in the background or not, but they are running back and forth behind me every now and then, and it is just cats. What can you do? So what's the, why did I even go into that? Because we are using $6,000 as our baseline cost that we are going to expect in retirement, even though some of the conventional wisdom is to say, take what your actual cost is now. Again, as I discussed, our actual cost is not $6,000. It's less than that. And then subtract 25%, because the going thought is you'll probably be spending less. You'll probably not have as much, debts, like you pay your house off and things like that in retirement. So you wouldn't need to have as much money in retirement as you do today. So by us staying at that inflated $6,000 and using that for our goals, that is giving us some pretty significant goals to reach. But if we are able to reach them or even get close, then we will be in a very good position if our situation holds true when we get into retirement and our costs that we are truly seeing now actually end up being 25% even lesser than that. So that's the thinking behind that. Essentially, we are targeting age 70 for retirement, mostly because that is the first step up for Social Security. So I am able to retire and draw from Social Security at 67. Every year that I delay, my Social Security amount would go up. If I delay till 70, it seems to have one of the bigger jumps, and I feel like that is somewhat reasonable, more so than waiting until like 72 or even 75 or something like that. So 70 is kind of the age that we are looking at. And with that, we are being very, very generous towards ourselves and our health and saying we will live another 30 years after that. I hope so. I want to see what comes next. For better or for worse, I am a very nosy person and I don't want to miss anything. So we're saying, okay, another 30 years beyond that retirement date is how long we are going to plan to need income, need money to be able to survive, some kind of stash to be able to pull money from so that we can pay our costs. So that's what we use. And we take $6,000, multiply that by 12 months, so $72,000 a year times 30 years, and that gets us to our big goal, $2,160,000. Yikes. That's a lot of money. We did then create a minimum goal using that kind of conventional thought of, okay, in retirement, you'll probably have 25% less costs than you do now. So we took 25% off of the 6,000, which would bring us to 4,500. Multiply that by 12, and then multiply that by 30 years, and you get the minimum goal of $1,620,000. That still feels like a cajillion billion dollars, like incredibly unattainable, but that's what the numbers are. So one thing I did write down before we get into these over here is the Social Security number that I got on my Social Security statement at 70 was $3,213. Now, it also said if I were to become disabled today, I would be eligible to get $2,271 in disability every month. What we have kind of decided to do, because again, I am a estimate high in costs, but estimate low in income for all the different scenarios that I do where budgeting and money is concerned, is we decided to really lowball it and say, okay, each of us is going to get, roughly $1,250, $1,270 per month. That is not going to be the amount, but that's what we're using. So we combine that together, and 2,542 is kind of the number that we are using. I tend to round it down even more down to 2,500, to be honest. So the thought there is, if we are getting $2,500 per month between the two of us, and our costs are $6,000, then ultimately we need to figure out how are we going to pay for that gap, which comes to $3,500, which is less than this minimum goal that we have created. So if we get to that minimum goal, then we should be good. We should have plenty of money to live off of without 100% living off of the Social Security. And that's another thing. I mean, if we get to the 6,000, heck, if we get to this 1,620, then we're good, because we will have the wherewithal to pull money out and meet our 4,500 or 6,000 goal, whichever we were able to get to, without Social Security even being part of the picture. And just like with my unemployment, that is the position I want to be in. I want us to be in a place where we do not have to rely on Social Security to cover our costs, so that if we do get Social Security, it's an add-on, and it just enriches our life a little bit more. Or if we are a little bit shy of the goal, then the gap that we need to fill is not critical in the way that it might be if your sole income is Social Security, because then you're going to have to pare down significantly in order to be able to survive. And while you do what you have to do, we don't want to have to be in that position. So there is an asterisk next to the Social Security number, and that is because the amount that they have calculated that I would get in when I turn 70 for Social Security is based off of the last income amount that they have on record, which was for last year, and with an assumption that for the next 20 years, I will be making that same amount, and that is not going to happen. I'm not entirely sure what my gross income is for this year, because, I was still working for a fourth of the year at my old job. Then we had the unemployment where we had some unemployment funds coming in, and I think that counts as income for Social Security purposes. And then, of course, I got my job and was part-time and then moved to full-time. So I'm not sure where I'll land for a total gross income for this year. But next year, presuming everything goes well, stays the same, my gross for the year will be diminished. So I would expect that in 2027, I can see what my statement is for 2026, and that will probably be a more realistic number to expect and to be able to draw forward for the next, 18, 19 years. And I could feel a little bit more confident in what my Social Security would actually be. I don't know what Mr. M's Social Security actually is. He had a little bit of trouble getting onto the website and, verifying who he was. He had to go to the post office and all that rigmarole, and then he never went back to look at it. So that's a to-do on his list. I really recommend you doing that so you have that information, what you can kind of expect, and have some detail to draw from as best as you can, knowing that, things will change in the future. One last piece about the Social Security, I did confirm it is there in black and white on the statement. They have advised that they're going to be able to fully fund Social Security until 2034, and I believe it is either in 2034 or in 2035. Their calculations indicate that they will only be able to pay $810 out of every $1,000 that a person is eligible for. So even if your Social Security statement says, hey, after all these years of you putting money in, your work putting money in, and all of this other stuff, you are eligible and you should be getting $2,000. Unfortunately, because of shortfalls and all of that, we will only be paying you $1,620. Wow is right, kitty. Exactly. So, that's another reason why I don't want to put more eggs in the Social Security basket than we have to. There is a great chance, that people will do what needs to be done to keep Social Security solvent and to the point where people are getting what they have put in for, because that's just what's fair. But you never know. We never know what will happen. I know that there's been talk many, many years to privatize Social Security. I don't know that I love that idea, but I can be honest and say I don't know enough of the positives and the negatives to speak on it in any kind of authority. So I'm going to leave that alone and just say I am not sure where things are going to go in the future, and I want to do what I can, what I have control over, to ensure that this piece of things, Social Security, is a very small part of what my retirement income relies on. Okay? So, looking at the numbers, the actual numbers. Now, these dollar amounts are as of roughly the first week of October. Not necessarily exactly October 1st, but is in that first week. My rollover IRA at that time was $97,710.93. Now, this is my old 401k. The job stopped administrating it, and so we had the choice of either having it get paid out, which of course you would then have to pay the taxes on, and because I am not 59 and a half, a 10% penalty. So that was no way, Jose. You could have rolled it over into another or some other 401k, which I did not have one at the time, so that was not doable. Or you could put it into a Roth IRA or a rollover IRA. I'll be honest, I don't know if I knew as much as or was more familiar with everything like I am now, if I would have made the decision to roll it over to a Roth IRA at that point. I would get hit with the tax costs, but then any growth that it received would be tax-free at that point. Because it would be considered post-tax, and there would be far more flexibility in what I do with it. I could pull money from it without any concerns about penalties or things like that at that point, from what I understand. Again, reach out to an expert just to make sure if you have any questions. I made the decision to keep it as a rollover IRA. So at this point, any ups or downs that we see in here are going to be 100% driven by the market. So if a particular holding goes up and has dividends that are paid out, those dividends are being reinvested. So, and if the market's going up, then this dollar amount's going to go up. If the market goes down, it's going to go down. We are not actively putting any new money into the rollover IRA. The Roth IRA, on the other hand, is all new money. So when I first opened this, I did open it a little bit earlier or sooner than Mr. M did. And I did that with like $30. I didn't do anything like attribute buy anything or anything like that. So there's a little bit more in my Roth IRA than in Mr. M's, but at this time it is at $1,165.09. I am investing in different things in Mr. M there's no overlap between the two of us. Now my new 401k with my new job, I am at $1,222.18. And at the same time that I opened up a Roth IRA, I did open up a crypto account. $30, that is it. And at the time of, filling this all out, it was at $35.46. I tend to be somewhat aggressive with my investing. I do have, I am risk tolerant to an extent, but I'm still not really sure about crypto. So I have not pursued that any further than this. And I don't know if I'm going to do so or not. So that's kind of an up in the air. If you have any particular thoughts about crypto and investing in it, I'd love to hear them, especially if you have been an investor for a while and would be doing, kind of what I would be doing, which is investing small amounts. So you're only getting like teeny tiny parts of a share, and whether, what you think about it. I'd be very interested in knowing. Now, Mr. M, just for information purposes, this buildup is over the course of the 17, 18 years that I was at my job, but the first couple of years I didn't really do anything with my 401k, and then I believe I only went up to the company match, which I cannot remember what it was at the time. Then the whole 2008 hit, and they took away the company match. They also reduced our wage by 15%. And so I think I stopped contributing to my 401k at that point because I wanted to make sure I had more money coming into my paycheck. And then it's, once things kind of settled out, and as I started to move up in roles and was making a little bit more money, promotions and things like that, I did restart the 401k. I did start contributing more. I think the most that I ever contributed was either 8 or 9%. So I did not get up to that 15% number that a lot of places say is where you should be with your investing. Kitty, what are you doing? The cat is in the curtains. I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she found a spider. Carry on. Anyway, so my investment in the 401k has not been consistent. I wish it had been, because then I'd definitely be in an even better position. But I did what I felt was right and important at the time once I got started doing it, and then made adjustments considering what was going on around us. Some of that was before Mr. M and I were heavily involved, but even then we didn't start commingling our finances or anything like that for quite some time afterwards. So that's kind of the background there. Now, Mr. M, he currently has some company stock. That's part of the perks that the place he works offers. And those are currently worth $41,943.51. His Roth IRA at the time of this was at $1,118.34. And as I mentioned, he is investing in different holdings than I am. So it'll be interesting if we take away the extra $30 that I have in mine to kind of see how those go up and down, just depending on the market and what stocks and other investment things are affected, how they're affected and things like that. And he's got a doozy of a 401k, even though he's worked at his job less time than I have. Some of that is because he, even at my pinnacle, was making more than I was making. But he also has been contributing 15% since he started the 401k. And I believe he did open his 401k from the get-go, right when he got hired on and was able to. That did change, obviously, when the whole bankruptcy and my job situation blew up. He did reduce how much he was contributing to the 401k so that the take-home pay was a little bit higher. But he didn't completely eliminate it, and I didn't want him to. So I'm very pleased with that. I don't believe he has gone back to the 15% yet. But he is at $203,409.22. So this is our future right here. I should have noted, how much does that add up together? I have it on my spreadsheet. I want to say it's roughly $320 plus dollars, $320,000 plus dollars. So it's not insignificant. It's something. It is absolutely something, and I'm very proud of us having that. But it doesn't get us where we would need to be in retirement. That said, this is 16.05% of our big Mac Daddy goal, and it is 21.4% of the minimum goal. So, progress is there. A lot of it is come from actions that we took 10, 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, though. So the hope is this next 20 years, we will be doing right and be investing consistently, and the market will do what it typically does, and we will reap the benefits of that, because we will be continuing to have these over time, as well as continue to contribute over time, so that compounds and everything like that. And then we'll see if we get close to the minimum or even close to the big goal. It's hard to say. We've got 20 long years to try and achieve that. It would be amazing, absolutely amazing, if our financial situation changed to the point where we could retire earlier than that and be okay. I would absolutely love that. I want a retirement not just as free from financial strain and concern as possible, but I want one that I can enjoy, that I'll have the health and the mobility and all of that stuff to enjoy. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. That does mean I need to get my butt in gear and get healthier than I am now to ensure, mobility and health down the line as well. So that's also a project that I'm trying to figure out my best steps forward. But as far as the investment priority and project, this is what it looks like, and I do anticipate doing a monthly update on these. If I do end up doing the per pay period updates, I don't think we'll do the investing piece each pay period. I would leave that either to be a separate monthly update on its own, or it'll be tacked on to the second pay period update as well. All right, so that's where we are at, like before. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, concerns, suggestions, ideas, any thoughts in particular about anything we've talked about or anything else, actually, I'm open to it. Note those down below. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.